There is a strange and often terrifying paradox that occurs when you meet the one your soul recognizes. You prepare yourself for the emotional storm. You prepare for the sleepless nights. You even prepare for the spiritual ego death. But you are not prepared for what happened to your bank account. For many of you listening, the arrival of this sacred encounter coincided with a total collapse of your material stability. Maybe you lost the career you spent 20 years building. Maybe unexpected debts materialized out of thin air. Or maybe, for a rare few, your wealth skyrocketed overnight, but it felt heavy, unearned. You sit there, exhausted, asking the universe, why? Why, when I am dealing with the greatest heartbreak of my life, must I also worry about survival? It feels like a punishment. It feels like the universe is kicking you while you're down. But what if I told you that your love life and your financial life are not two separate things? What if I told you they are governed by the exact same frequency? You are not being punished. You are being rewired. And to understand why your money changed when they walked in, we have to look at where the energy lives. There is a specific silent devastation that occurs in the shadow of a spiritual awakening. It is a phenomenon that is rarely spoken about in the glowing, romanticized narratives of soul connections. We speak often of the heart. We speak of the longing, the telepathy, and the dark night of the soul, but we rarely speak of the wallet. For many of you, the arrival of your counterpart, that person who felt like home and a storm all at once, coincided with a baffling collapse of your material reality. You may be sitting there right now, looking at the wreckage of a career that once felt stable, or a bank account that has inexplicably drained away, asking the universe a desperate question. Why, when you are navigating the greatest emotional labyrinth of your life, must you also fear for your survival? It feels cruel. It feels like a cosmic punishment. But to understand this dismantling, we must step out of the narrative of victimization and into the anatomy of energy. We must look at the body, not just as flesh and bone, but as a map of consciousness. In the ancient systems of energetic anatomy, we look to the svadhisthana, or the sacral chakra. This energy center sits low in the abdomen, just beneath the navel. It glows with the color orange, vibrant and fluid. It is the seat of the water element. It governs your sexuality, your sensuality, and your ability to connect deeply with another human being. But it is also the seat of your creativity and your money. This is not a coincidence. In the language of the unconscious, these energies are identical. We use the same words to describe them. We speak of currency and currents. We speak of liquidity and flow. We conceive ideas and we birth businesses. Money, like sexual energy, is a creative force that demands movement. It is life force solidified into a medium of exchange. Therefore, your financial life and your love life are not two separate rooms in the house of your soul. They are governed by the exact same frequency, and they flow through the exact same pipe. Before you met the one who triggered this awakening, your sacral chakra was likely operating on a dormant or conditioned setting. You had built a life based on safety. You may have held a job that did not inspire you, but it paid the bills. You may have stayed in relationships that lacked fire, but provided companionship. You were surviving. You were functional. You had constructed a reality that was safe, predictable, and perhaps slightly inauthentic. You were likely operating from a place of conditional security. You believed that if you followed the rules, if you suppressed your wilder creative urges, and if you played it safe, you would be provided for. This is the contract of the ego. It trades vitality for security. Then the catalyst occurs. You met them. When this specific soul enters your field, they do not just touch your heart. They act as a massive, sudden surge of high-voltage electricity into your energetic system. Because of the profound quantum entanglement between you, this connection demands absolute truth. It is a fire that burns away everything that is false. When this voltage hits your system, it rushes straight into the sacral chakra, the center of your connection. If your financial life was built on structures that were not aligned with your soul's highest truth, those structures cannot handle the surge. The wiring blows out. The safety mechanisms fail. The universe is not punishing you. The universe is revealing that the foundation you stood upon was never truly yours. The connection forces a purge of scarcity. The intense magnetic pull you feel toward your counterpart stirs up the sediment at the bottom of your emotional ocean. It brings to the surface every fear of abandonment, every wound of unworthiness, and every belief that says you are not enough unless you are earning, doing, or fixing. The anxious heart often tries to manage the terrifying lack of control in the connection by gripping tighter to the material world. You try to work harder. You try to force solutions. But the more you grip, the more the sand slips through your fingers. This is because the energy of the connection is trying to teach you the opposite of gripping. It is teaching you surrender. This dismantling is a nervous system recalibration. You are being moved from a state of survival, where you work for money out of fear, to a state of creation, where you generate abundance out of flow. But to get you there, the old architecture must come down. The job that drained your soul is removed, so you can no longer hide in it. The false security of a dependent relationship is dissolved so you can find your own center of gravity. The collapse is painful, yes. It triggers the primal brain's fear of death. But it is necessary. You cannot enter a union of unconditional love while you are enslaved by conditional security. You are being stripped of your crutches so that you are forced to realize that you are and always have been the source of your own power. The breakdown is simply the clearing of the site, making way for a structure that is worthy of the majesty of who you are becoming. This is the pivot point where the narrative changes. If you are currently standing amidst the ashes of your financial reality, looking at a frightening bank balance and a quiet phone, you must listen closely. The collapse you are experiencing is not the end of your story. It is the necessary clearing of the ground. We often mistake the void for emptiness, but in the laws of nature, the void is the most fertile place that exists. It is the womb of creation. The dark night of the wallet is not a sign that you have failed at the game of life. It is a sign that you are being invited to play a completely different game. You are being invited to stop functioning as a survivor and start functioning as a creator. The scaffolding of your false security was removed not to starve you, but to force you to find your own wings. To understand this shift, we must look at the architecture of a sacred union. This connection is not a standard romantic relationship script where two halves meet to make a whole. That is the model of codependency. That is the model of entanglement. The sacred union is an ascension path that requires two fully sovereign beings. Imagine a temple. A temple is not supported by two pillars that lean against each other. If they leaned, the structure would collapse under the weight of the roof. The temple is supported by two pillars that stand tall, straight, and strong on their own foundations. They stand close enough to share the same covering, but they do not rely on the other for their structural integrity. If you need your person to save you emotionally, you are in a vibration of need. If you need a job to save you financially, you are in a vibration of slavery. The union wants you powerful. It dismantles your dependence on anything that is not your own soul, so that you can become that sovereign pillar. This brings us to the mechanism of the shift. When the false structures fall, you are left with only one resource. You are left with yourself. Specifically, you are left with your own creative channel. This is where the alchemy happens. Consider the intense frustration you feel, the yearning for them, the ache in your body, the obsessive thoughts that loop in your mind. We often label these feelings as negative. We call it suffering, but energetically, this is raw, nuclear fuel. It is pure life force. Napoleon Hill, in his study of successful individuals, spoke of the concept of sex transmutation. The mystics speak of Kundalini. They are describing the same phenomenon. The energy that creates life is the same energy that creates empires. It is the same energy that paints masterpieces and builds fortunes. The reason you have been blocked financially is often because you are leaking this massive reservoir of power toward your counterpart. Every time you check their social media, you send them a payment of your energy. Every time you sit in despair, waiting for a text, you are hemorrhaging your creative life force. You are sending your sacral power out of your body, chasing the unawakened soul, trying to fix them, trying to catch them, trying to energetically drag them across the finish line. You are depleted because your treasury is open and the gold is pouring out toward a ghost. Imagine for a moment what would happen if you closed the gates. Imagine if you took that massive desire, that sleepless intensity, and turned the stream inward. This is the great secret of the alchemist. You do not suppress the desire. You do not kill the longing. You use it. You take that burning heat and you direct it into your purpose. You direct it into your art. You direct it into your business. You use the frustration of separation as the engine to build your life. When you stop chasing the person and start chasing the passion that the person ignited within you, the entire energetic dynamic flips. This is when the money returns. But it does not return in the same way it did before. It does not come from grinding, struggling, or compromising your integrity. It comes from flow. It comes from alignment. It comes because you are finally vibrating at the frequency of your true self. When you are no longer desperate for love, you become magnetic to love. When you are no longer desperate for money, but rather focused on creative expression, You become magnetic to abundance. You detach from the outcome, and in that detachment, you create a vacuum that pulls both prosperity and your counterpart toward you. You become the lighthouse that stands firm on the rock. You stop running into the waves to find the ship. You shine your light so brightly that the ship can finally find its way home to you. This is the paradigm shift. You are not waiting for the union to save you. You are becoming the version of yourself that the union requires. We have explored the deep philosophy of why the collapse happens, and we have touched upon the alchemy of transmuting your energy. But philosophy alone does not pay the rent, and understanding the concept does not automatically calm the panic of a nervous system that feels unsafe. To navigate this transition from a crumbling old world to a vibrant new one, we must move from intellectual understanding into practical, embodied integration. We must look at how to live this reality day by day, hour by hour. The shift from scarcity to abundance is not a magic trick. It is a series of microscopic decisions that you make when no one is watching. It is a fundamental rewiring of how you interact with your own power. There are 3 specific internal shifts that act as the keys to this new kingdom. The first shift is what we call the sovereignty contract. The most dangerous trap for the spiritual seeker in separation is the waiting room. Without realizing it, many of you have put your lives on pause. You are keeping your energy in a holding pattern, saving your joy, your expansion, and your financial risks for that hypothetical moment when they return. You tell yourself that you will buy the house when you are together. You will start the business when you have the emotional support. You will be happy when the silence ends. Energetically, this is a disaster. Money is a current. It requires movement. When you wait, you stagnate the flow. The universe cannot deliver abundance to an address that is marked pending. You must sign a new contract with yourself today. You must decide that you are going to build your empire, cultivate your garden, and live your most magnificent life, whether they join you or not. This is not about giving up on the connection. It is about realizing that your life is not a dress rehearsal for their arrival. Paradoxically, this radical independence is the most attractive frequency you can broadcast. When you start moving, the money starts moving. The second shift is the practice of alchemizing the ache. We must change what you do with the pain. In the moments when the longing hits you, it can feel debilitating. It feels like a physical weight in the chest. The instinct of the unawakened heart is to seek relief. You pick up the phone, you check their social media, you ask friends for advice, you look for a hit of dopamine to numb the sensation of their absence. But every time you do this, you are venting your steam into the open air. You are wasting the fuel. The shift here is to recognize that the ache is not a symptom of sickness. It is a reservoir of potential kinetic energy. The next time you feel that crushing desire, catch yourself. Do not reach out. Instead, sit down and create. Write the proposal, fix the broken shelf, paint the canvas, clean your sanctuary. You must physically channel that emotional intensity into a tangible output. You are training your nervous system to use the grief as gasoline. You are teaching your body that the absence of the other is not a signal to collapse, but a signal to build. You convert the pain into a product. You convert the grief into gold. The third and perhaps most profound shift is healing the authority wound. For many, the financial panic is deeply tied to a childhood wound regarding the provider. We often project the archetype of the father onto our employers, the government, or our romantic counterparts. We subconsciously want a daddy. We want to be safe. We want to be taken care of. When the counterpart leaves or the job dissolves, it feels like an abandonment by the primary caregiver. The inner child screams in terror because the safety net is gone. The sacred union demands that you grow up. It demands that you become your own provider. You must look in the mirror and realize that you are the one you have been waiting for. You are the protector. You are the generator. When you truly trust your own ability to generate abundance, you stop gripping the connection so tightly. You stop needing them to be your safety, which allows them to simply be your love. You detach from the need for external validation. In that detachment, you create an energetic vacuum. Because you no longer need the money or the person to survive, you become a vessel capable of holding both. The universe responds to this maturity. It floods the sovereign being with resources because it knows those resources will not be used to build a cage of dependency, but a sanctuary of freedom. The disruption of your finances is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are graduating. You are being stripped of the illusion of safety so that you can step into the reality of your power. Your counterpart did not come to destroy your life. They came to destroy the limitations on your life. They cracked you open, yes, but that is how the light gets in. And that is also how the gold gets in. Trust the purge. Build your kingdom. The king or queen will meet you there once the throne is ready. I'll see you in the next realization.